Now, how does our nervous system respond to an external stimulus? So if I put my hand, as a child we learn to not touch a hot stove. My brother, when he was maybe 2 or 3, he took a bobby pin and he put it inside of the electrical outlet, and he learned very quickly that that hurts and that he should never do it again. So how does our nervous system actually play a role in that? Well, we want to define a few terms. So first, there is a stimulus, and I think that makes a bit of sense that there has to be something within the environment that changes. It could be internal or external, and it's detected by the body, specifically by a receptor, and that therefore can elicit a response. We have a reflex, which is going to be a rapid and unconscious response. Um, and then we have a response. It's the reaction to that stimulus. So in the case of my brother sticking the bobby pin in the electrical outlet, he got a little bit of a jolt and he instantly removed it. That's his reaction, and he ended up crying. It was kind of bad. So don't do that. I think we all know that by this point, though. And ultimately what we see is that an animal is going to respond to a stimuli through a reflex. So let's look at the context of a muscular type response. If you were to touch a hot stove, how do we go from touching the hot stove, realizing that it's hot, and then being able to remove our hand right away? Well, we have receptor cells, for example, within the skin, okay, like right here underneath the skin, that are going to basically be able to sense and receive the stimulus that is coming in. So this could be heat right here. And at this point, the receptor cells are going to help generate a nerve impulse in the sensory neurons. Then you'll have the sensory neuron, which is going to carry that information or that impulse toward the spinal cord. And so basically the sensory neuron is going to be connecting the receptor cells to the central nervous system so that communication can be received to the brain. And you have your relay neurons, which are actually going to help coordinate a response. You will have motor neurons next, so you are going to be basically leaving the central nervous system, and then these motor neurons are going to be carrying the message back to the muscle in our example. So you have the motor neurons that's connecting the central nervous system to the effector. The effector in our example is going to be the muscle. And then the effector is going to take action. So if I touch the hot stove, the effector muscle is going to contract. And you will see, for example, we know that the bicep is going to contract. You're going to see that the tricep is going to relax, and there will be a nervous signal that's sent to that to say, okay, you need to relax. But in essence, the effector is going to be able to contract that muscle. So real quick, just to kind of run through that one more time. You've got heat here. Your sensory receptors are going to receive that signal, and it will be sent down through the afferent neuron, or we call it the sensory neuron, that kind of has two different names. And it's traveling, as you can see, through the spinal nerve. It's going to pass what we call the dorsal root ganglion. Ganglion are the nerve-like bundles, and they are dorsal because they're on the dorsal side of the body, and then they're going to go into the central nervous system, which will be in the brain. And if you notice, you've got this region right here, which is going to be gray matter, and then this outer portion is going to be the white matter. And so you have this associated or relay neuron that's going to help transmit that message in the gray matter, but then that message is going to leave through the white matter. And as it does, it passes through the ventral root, and it's basically passing along the efferent or the motor neuron, and then eventually it's going to reach its effector, and it's going to allow the response to be moving away the hand. So just be aware that the afferent and the sensory are synonymous, and efferent and motor are synonymous. All right, and that in itself is the reflex arc. So we'll be doing a lab based upon this. but make sure that you're able to draw this. It does not have to be as grandiose as this particular picture, but you want to be able to draw the entire reflex arc and be able to label everything that you see here.